Hey, Grace Hill, I want to wish you and those who you love the most and all of your family a Happy New Year. I'm so glad you're taking a few minutes and tuning in today. It's a really important day for us because today what I want to begin to do is I want to begin to lay the groundwork for the new sermon series we're going to start next week called Becoming. And there's been so much time, energy, effort, and prayer put into where we're headed as a church for our future. And today is important because there's three priorities, three things we see happen in the early church. You know, this incredible, exciting thing happens in Acts 2. And there's three things we can learn from them, but those three things that we see take place in Acts 2 are three priorities that we want to see happen in our church in 2023 and really beyond. And so I want to take just a few minutes of your time today, sort of lay the groundwork for this, sort of build a foundation for where we're going to start next week with our new sermon series, and point us towards these three priorities that we learn out of Acts 2. And so I want to start by reading our text for the day. You may have heard this before, but I just want to take a few minutes and read it. Starting in Acts chapter 2, verse 41, it says this: "So those who accepted his message were baptized, and that day about 3,000 people were added to them. And they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, to the fellowship, to the breaking of bread, and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe, and many wonders and signs were being performed through the apostles. Now, all the believers were together and held all things in common. They sold their possessions and property and distributed the proceeds to all as any had need. Every day they devoted themselves to meeting together in the temple. They broke bread from house to house and ate their food with joyful and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. Every day the Lord added to their number those who were being saved." This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Amen. And there's three themes that emerge out of what we see taking place here in the early church. The first one is this: is the early church, they were reaching people. We get that in verse 41, and then in verse 47, we see this incredible act of God that's happening as the people are embracing the good news of the hope of Jesus. They're reaching people. In verse 41, it talks about the fact that 3,000 people in one day were being baptized. And then there in the end of chapter 2, verse 47, we see that every day the Lord was adding to their number. This early church and the passion that they had for the mission and the vision that they had experienced in this moment was causing an incredible opportunity. It was creating an incredible opportunity for them to reach people. And so we see the early church reaching people. The second thing that we see happening here, it was just an amazing, amazing moment and act and movement of the people and of the Holy Spirit empowering these people, is we see this idea of they were uniting people. I want to read a couple of the verses here that really point us and give us a picture of this. Verse 42, look at this. "They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, to the fellowship, to the breaking of bread," which is the Lord's Supper, "and to prayer." You see this picture here. They were devoting themselves. They were committing themselves. They were united together around this. And then in verse 46, we get this again. Every day they devoted themselves. They were united in this. And what were they united in? They were united in meeting together. They were united in taking the Lord's Supper from house to house. And they ate their food with joyful and sincere hearts. And so here, again, the news of the gospel, the news of what Christ had done, had created a sense of unity among the people in the early church. It was something they were devoted to. They were committing themselves to this. The third thing that we see happening here in this text in the early church is that they were experiencing life change. They were experiencing life change. Their lives had been changed by the gospel. But not only that, is they were experiencing life change among one another. Again, I want to point us to just a few verses here. Verse 43. Now again, just get a picture of this. Verse 43. Everyone was filled with awe. When was the last time you were in a church setting and everyone in that place was filled with awe? And many wonders and signs were being performed through the apostles. Then in verse 44, we get this picture again of sort of this unity, and they were experiencing life change in this. Now all the believers were together and held all things in common. Again, this radical unity was creating, they were experiencing life change because of this radical unity. And then one more verse here, verse 45. Listen to this. They sold their possessions and property and distributed the proceeds to all as any had need. Now again, our church has had a history for years of taking care of people and help kind of filling the gap for people when they have a need. But the whole community, the whole church community here was united behind this, and they were experiencing life change. People who had needs were having their needs met by the community. They were seeing and experiencing life change as a result. And so, here's what I want to say to you as we look ahead for 2023. We are praying and asking the Lord to let us experience and see the same three things in our church for 2023. We want to reach people. We want to create unity, and we want to experience life change in our church. Now, you may say, well, how are we going to do that? You know, we're talking about reaching people. How are we going to do that? Well, what we want to do is we want to create some new mission partners. We want to look beyond maybe what we have done in the past and create some new mission partners in our area, expand that reach to reach people and impact people. We want to take our school partnerships in 2023 further than we ever have before. God has given us such a blessing and opportunity there. And we want to take those school partnerships even further. And here's the big thing. We want to reach people. I'm believing that God is going to let us reach people through you. You know people in your life who have not gone back to church since 2020. Maybe they were hurt by the church. Maybe they were kind of disenfranchised with religion and church people and all the things. Maybe they got blinded by sort of things happening in the world around, and they just haven't gone back. Maybe you know people who are just looking for hope, and I believe we can reach people. God's going to use you to help us as a church reach people in 2023. The other thing that we want to do is we want to create unity. I think and believe and expect that God has given us an incredible vision. And I cannot wait to share it with you beginning next Sunday, January the 8th. But what we want to do is we want to create unity around that vision, just like we saw in Acts 2, where the people were devoted to this. They were united behind this. We want to see and create unity in our church next year in 2023. And again, this isn't a fake unity. This isn't, a thing where we stamp out questions and nobody can try to get clarity about things in our future. No, we want to create open and honest places where people can have dialogue. We want to create access to our leaders to where you can get questions asked and answered. We want to create opportunities for people to join in the mission and the vision for our church easier. In ways that are easier for us moving forward, to create a sense of unity and being devoted to one another and to the vision that God has given us. And then lastly, we are believing and trusting that God is going to let us experience life change. I want to see life change happen for you. I want to see life change happen and see that experience for your family this next year. I want to see your life change as you grow closer to Christ over this next year, as you step into this vision and see how God's going to use you in that. So a next step, an easy next step, I want to give you two right now. The first one is this, is be there January 8th. Mark it out on your calendar. You know, the old kind of saying is Sunday morning is a Saturday night decision. Well, I'm saying January 8th is a January 1 decision. Do everything you can do to be there January 8th. Begin to hear this vision. We're going to be giving you lots of resources moving forward of how you can begin to understand this vision, interact with it, embrace it, kind of dissect it in your own life. We're going to be giving you lots of opportunities to do that. But January 8th is a monumental day in the life of our church, so don't miss it. The other thing I want to encourage you to do, the next step, is take advantage of these new discipleship opportunities that we're beginning in January. Well, we're starting a new class on Wednesday night called Emotionally Healthy Spirituality. I think it will change your life. We're also going to start a new community group. You know, it's going to be hard to be devoted and united to one another if we're not in community with each other. So take that step and sign up for a community group if you can. And then ladies, we're starting a Friday morning study. I would love for you to jump in, ladies, and be a part of that. Commit to doing that and seeing how God is going to let you experience life change through those things. So you can find all that information out at gracehill901.com. There's a big banner right there that says New Discipleship Opportunities. Click on that. It's going to take you to a sign-up page where you can get more information and take a next step. So I am so excited. I pray that over this next week, God's stirring something up in your heart. God's stirring something up in your mind and in your life about what's possible for us as a church. I'm serious about this. I've never been more excited to share the vision of our church for where we're headed beginning January 8th with our new series called Becoming. Can't wait to see you there. Grace and peace. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.